And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
So today I'm here at WBIG 1280 radio station. We're about to do an interview. Let's go.
Today I have a special guest with me, so super excited here. Founder and CEO of Titan Tiny Homes, Bob Clarizio today. And I hear that Titan Tiny Homes is regarded as the fastest growing tiny house builder in the U.S. How exciting, Bob. Welcome.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit, how you got started with the tiny homes. I see these and I'm really intrigued. I know many folks are too. So this is like the new big thing. I want to get one.
So the whole idea started about 3 years ago. I was at the time a fix and flipper general contractor, doing kitchens, bathrooms, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And so I got a phone call from a TV network asking us to build a tiny house for a TV show called Tiny House Nation. And what was funny at the time was I thought it was a prank call. So I didn't think it was for real.
Yeah.
And but as I answered the call and we got more information, it became more real. And quite frankly, at the time, I was intrigued just to be on TV. And then, so we built the tiny house. And I think what really kick-started my ambitions to close down all other business and just focus 100% on tiny houses by October of 2015 was that when we revealed the house to the customer, if you're familiar with these home shows,
I've seen them, yeah.
They do this big reveal where they go inside and stuff like that. Typically that scene of the episode takes about 2 hours to shoot, and that took 4 hours that day. Okay. Because the customer, she was crying and just overwhelmed with joy, and it really just fired me up and realized that we could do great work and we could really do something with this. So that's really what kick-started it for me. In the last 3 years, we've really grown significantly, a little faster than I would have liked to, but
took off, right?
Yeah, and so it's been a really fun journey so far. So that's kind of where things started off from.
And so this is something we're looking forward to. There's going to be the Tiny Titan Festival. This is coming up in May. So this is Friday through Sunday, May 11th through the 13th. And this is going to be at the Schaumburg Boomer Stadium. How exciting for that. I mean, that's a pretty big area.
Yeah, so it's the 2018 Chicago Tiny Home Show. It's actually the very first of its kind in this area.
Really?
And the reason I decided to do it was there's so many people that come to our facility on a weekly basis just wanting to see a tiny house.
Sure.
And usually we have one, maybe two houses available. But after doing all these other shows all over the country and seeing the amount of people that show up and really the value that people take away from it, I thought, you know what, let's go out on a limb here. And so I rented the entire baseball stadium for the whole weekend. It's ours, and the houses will be inside the baseball stadium. The environment's going to be a lot of fun. We have speakers from all over the tiny house industry coming to speak. Okay.
How many tiny houses are you going to have there? I mean, I'm picturing now, what it's going to look like.
Between 10 and 20 homes will be on display, along with vendors from all over the tiny house industry. We have some non-for-profits that are located here in Chicago that will be there to talk about their ambitions and how they involve tiny houses in their plan, anything from homeless veterans to just the homeless effort in Chicago. So it's just going to be a really good event for anyone who's interested in tiny houses or just wants to experience it for themselves instead of just seeing it on TV. Sure. So it's Mother's Day weekend. Moms are free to the event.
Okay.
And so as long as you bring your child with you, moms are free, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
It is gonna be a lot of fun. Now, what are the hours for the show?
So Friday it's gonna kick off at 10 a.m. And it's gonna go till somewhere between 7 and 8 o'clock at night. We're not too sure, depending on the weather and when it gets dark. And then Saturday, same thing, 10 o'clock till about 8 o'clock 10 a.m. to 8 o'clock at night.
10 to 8, okay.
And then Sunday it'll be 10 o'clock till about 3 in the afternoon.
Okay. So this is exciting, and I have to ask you, Bob, how did you get your name, Chicago Bob? We're in Chicago. Come on, you got to tell us.
So it goes back to that first episode of Tiny House Nation that we were on. the producer at the time, I think he was managing 20 to 30 different builds going on all over the country. And he just serendipitously put in his phone, Chicago, Bob, and I think it was mostly just to keep track of all the different builds going on. So then, as I started to get more involved in the tiny house industry, that contact got shared through the producer's phone to all these different people in the tiny house industry. And so then it became populated on their phone to Chicago Bob.
Chicago Bob.
And then about a year ago, I just owned it, changed my Instagram handle to chicago.bob, and it's really just been my nickname in the tiny house industry.
Yeah, okay, so I love that Chicago Bob there. So we're speaking to Bob Clarizio, founder and CEO for Titan Tiny Homes, and excited and looking forward to this event that's coming up in May. Moms get in for free. There we go, that weekend, Friday through Sunday, May 11th through the 13th at the Schaumburg Boomer Stadium. And so I understand the Tiny Fests are all over the U.S. now. How many have you attended?
So I think in the last year I've attended 12.
Okay.
It's ran me pretty ragged. In fact, I was just recently in Bristol, Tennessee last weekend for a tiny house festival that was put on by really good friends of mine, tryitiny.com. And what's interesting about them is the fact that you can actually go on their website and rent one of our tiny houses for the night.
Oh, you can?
Yeah,
really?
It's like the Airbnb for tiny houses.
Oh, okay. And so where do you go for that?
Tryitiny.com.
Okay, perfect. So if you want to just test it out, I think that would be something that people would love to do before.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're going to be at the event. They'll have 3 homes on display, and they'll be able to answer more questions. You can also rent your land on their website too. So if you have land to rent, you can have tiny house people stay on your land.
Perfect. And how many people do you think go to the tiny house festivals?
We're anticipating between 10 and 20,000 people.
Wow. So this is the new big thing out there. And why do you think that people are so intrigued with the tiny houses?
I think, well, for several different reasons, really, to be honest with you. I think some of it's motivated by financial frustration.
That's number one.
You know, a lot of people getting out of college, burdened by college debt, just trying to figure out a way to get a fair shot at life in a financial sense. So by owning a tiny home, paying it off swiftly in a matter of 5 to 6 years, they can live debt-free. Usually it's, one person or maybe a couple. And then when it comes time to creating a family, they'll have that second home away from home that they can put on a vacation piece of property or whatever, and then go to a regular style home.
So there you go. And I know the whole thing with saving nowadays, and I know a lot of millennials are also very smart with their money too, and this is something that would definitely be up their alley as well. But also, tell us about the website and where people can learn more on Facebook, social media, anything like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we run a pretty active Facebook page. We have about 50,000 people following us there, and the best place to get started would definitely be go to titantinyhomes.com.
Okay.
Right there on the front page is all of our social buttons. You can find out about our Facebook page, our Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, Google Plus page, Snapchat. We're on them all, and it's, for me, the community that's involved in the tiny house world, by far the best people as far as customers I've ever had to deal with, and also just the people that I get to work with are very unique and very special.
It definitely does sound like a very special community with the tiny houses and how this has taken off. I mean, it's only been around a couple years actually, right? With actually got started with people are talking about this and actually doing that and getting their own tiny houses.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I recently testified in front of Chicago City Hall back in October about tiny houses for the homeless and how to get things jump started as far as that movement. And then also we recently started a committee for tiny house zoning in the Chicagoland area where we have architects and zoning planning commissioners and all sorts of people from the Chicagoland area.
Yeah.
And we meet once a month to discuss where things are at and how we can start to keep the momentum moving forward.
Awesome. So folks, and we also have tickets here. We have tickets available here, so I'm excited about that event. And that's going to be coming up May 11th through the 13th. Again, it's going to be at the Schaumburg Boomer Stadium, 3 days only. So we're going to have one-day passes, and if you want to go all 3 days, you can definitely do that. How about parking?
So it's kind of funny you mentioned that, and that's when I really realized that I was like, man, like this must be becoming a big deal. Because at first I was just like, you know, we'll have some houses there, we're going to rent the stadium, it's going to be a fun time. And then when people started asking, like, they're worried about parking, I said, oh crap, this could be a big thing. Like, this could be serious. So we have an auxiliary parking lot off to the west of the Schaumburg Boomer Stadium to accommodate any overflow of traffic. But if you live in the city of Chicago or you live anywhere along the Metro line, actually the Schaumburg train station, the Metro line, is in the parking lot of the venue. So you literally can come from the city in 20 minutes, you're at the venue, you don't have to worry about parking, you don't have to pay for anything, you just go right to the door.
Nice.
And if parking really gets out of control, you can park at Itasca, or you can go up to Wooddale, or you can go and you can park along the train line and take the train over to the venue.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's an easy way to get there. And who wants to drive? Some, you know, most people, you know, on the weekend, you want to just, take me there. I don't want to drive. That sounds nice to me. And I like, for me, I don't like driving, but taking the train is easy.
No, absolutely. And speaking of driving and worrying about all that kind of stuff, also to go along with that, we're all of the vendors that the baseball stadium would normally have open for a baseball game, whether it's beer, hot dogs, and all their fixings in between, will all be open for the event.
Oh, they will be. Okay.
Absolutely.
So food and drink, that's all going to be available there for you to purchase while you're there. And again, May 11th through the 13th at the Schaumburg Boomer Stadium, the Titan Tiny Homes. Well, Bob, it's been a pleasure. Looking forward to that event, and looking forward to seeing you there in all the tiny houses.
Absolutely.
So thanks so much for coming out today. But I have to ask you one last question. What do you want folks to take away from that event? One thing.
So I think the one thing that I really want people to take away from is I want to turn skeptics into believers. You know, those people that possibly are on the fence, just maybe they'll never live in a tiny house, maybe they'll never stay a night in a tiny house. Yeah. But really gain that belief that they can have enough support for their friends and family members who might really genuinely want to do this.
Okay, there you go. And like I said, I love watching the shows with the tiny houses and whatnot, and I always think to myself, maybe I'll get one. Maybe I'll get one there. So
one more thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but if you wanted to see us tonight on HGTV, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm hosting an episode of Tiny House Hunters tonight.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Okay.
So you can check it out on HGTV. It's a 30-minute episode, but I'll be hosting tonight on Tiny House Hunters on HGTV at 9 o'clock. Ooh,
look at you, checking you out. I'll be checking you out there on the screen. So, folks, you'll get those tickets. We do have them available here on the big one, and looking forward to that event. Well, Bob, thanks again so much for coming out. You're a busy guy.
I am.
You wear many hats.
I do, yeah.
And we'll looking forward to seeing you at that event, and thanks again for coming out.